Good morning and welcome to 2022. I hope that you had a good Christmas. Well, as we come together to worship this morning, I want to try something a little bit different. I want to invite you to join with me on a walk through the woods as I'm in search of the perfect visual aid to illustrate the point that I want to make a little bit later. I'm looking for a fallen or a dead tree trunk, out of which a new green shoot has emerged. All of that later, but before then, we're going to share in a time of prayer. We're going to pause for a few moments as we listen to a song of blessing before we have a chance to make our own prayers. Almighty and ever-present God, come close to us and help us to come close to you. Breathe into our hearts and our lives right now your peace, your rest, your grace, in such a way that we may treasure these moments with you and be made whole. Let it be a moment when we can bring to you the stuff of our lives and find in it new meaning and purpose, new strength and fresh vision. Christ, be our light and our guide, the hope for the world, today, tomorrow, and every day. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. A reading from Isaiah chapter 11. A shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse. From his roots, a branch will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and of understanding, the Spirit of counsel and of power, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. And he will delight in the fear of the Lord. In that day, The root of Jesse will stand as a banner for the peoples. The nations will rally to him, and his place of rest will be glorious. He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles. Isaiah's words were spoken 700 years before the coming of Christ. Jerusalem, as it often was in a state of crisis at the time. The people were walking in darkness, and Isaiah's words were a message of hope. Well, I have to be honest, today I'm having my own miniature crisis. Having told you at the beginning that I was on a walk in search of the perfect visual aid, a downed or felled tree trunk that had died and that now had a green shoot emerging. Well, I haven't found one. This is the closest that I got. And so I'm going to have to resort to Google Images, and something will come up on your screen in a moment. I'm not very good with plants, although I did grow some red chilies from seed last summer. I germinated the seeds indoors, and when the green shoots were robust enough, I repotted the strongest ones. Now you're going to think I'm really daft, but I gave each one of them a name. There was Agatha and Gandhi, Bert, Cyril and Gertrude. Now all apart from Agatha made it out to the greenhouse and got the benefit of the sunshine. Very soon spindly little peppers appeared, first green and then red. They added flavour and heat to my homemade soups. Agatha, meanwhile, failed to flourish, and at one stage I gave her up for dead. However, just as I was getting ready to throw her out, I noticed a tiny little shoot appearing on the stem. It was weeks, even months before anything happened. But finally, the biggest, hottest red chilli started to grow. Agatha triumphed over adversity. Maybe that's why the reading we heard this morning resonated with me so much over Christmas. You may have heard it read weeks ago at the start of Advent, but it stayed with me, that picture of triumphing over adversity. What was once dead came alive again with strength and hope and flavour. Of course, Isaiah in his prophecy was talking about the promise that turned out to be Jesus. A green shoot will sprout from the stump of Jesse's tree, he said, and from his roots, a budding branch. Isaiah was talking about the family tree of King David. Jesse was the father of King David, 33 generations before Jesus. A family line that went all the way back to Abraham. Now, as you probably know, God's chosen people, the descendants of Abraham and Jesse, of whom we are ones, were always getting into a mess. And in 740 BC, when Isaiah was around, Jerusalem was a dark and dangerous place. Even then, the memory of David and Jesse was nearly 300 years past. Powerful armies surrounded the land, threatening invasion, and the people themselves were stumbling blindly without hope. The tree of Jesse, the family line, looked dead, as if it had been cut off. Just a stump remained, until God spoke through Isaiah. Something was happening, not quickly, but it was happening. In the darkness, God was doing something. A green shoot, a sign of life that could become a branch, offering hope that good times would come again. Times when God would be close to his people, times when God's power would be seen. Jesus became the fulfillment of that promise. The people who lived in darkness had seen a great light. Jesus was the light for all humankind, for you and for me, and for those whom we love and even those whom we don't. The plant, the tree that looked dead, even Jesus himself, who spent 3 days in the tomb, was resurrected. That's God's story. It is. Even when things seem bleak, or perhaps especially then, when we've lost hope and we can't make sense of things, when we mess up or we let others down, when our lives are stuck and the things that crowd in on us come in, when we develop patterns of behaviour that keep taking us down the same path, God's promise assures us that new life is always possible. My goodness, we've had a tough few years, haven't we? We've lost people dear to us. Our freedoms have been curtailed. Some have lost jobs. Our church congregations have dwindled. Some people have lost interest in church. But however much we might have given up on God, he has never given up on us. Jesus is proof of that. Jesus is God Emmanuel, always present, not just at Christmas, but perhaps even more especially at New Year. Our God never leaves us for dead. Yes, our lives will become muddled, and we will feel pain from time to time, and sometimes even will be the cause of others' pain. But God in Jesus never writes us off. This year, at the start of 2022, it might well be the time when we realise that it's the year he's calling us, calling you to put your trust and your hope in him once again. To grab hold of the hope that God can take the stuff of our ordinary and often disappointing lives and use it to create and save and give hope. Will you join me at the start of 2022 in placing your trust in God? Because I believe he has something maybe different, but nonetheless amazing for us to taste and enjoy, and with which we can bring flavour into people's lives. Well, we come to the end of our time of reflection. But before we close, I just want to share a blessing with you all for 2022. As we step into this new year and we leave behind 2021, a year in which we've been led this way and that way and every other way, may you give us, Lord, the courage and the grace to follow the one who says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And as we step forward, may we do as has been said of old, put our hands into the hands of God, because that shall be better to us than light and safer than a known way. God bless you all, and see you soon.
King, seated among us. Let every heart receive him now. Where there is praise, he will inhabit, and there will be grace and mercy all around. Every burden will be lifted in his presence. Every trophy will be laid down at his feet. There is a name that reigns above all others, Jesus Christ, the King above all kings. Unto the Lamb, honor and glory, worthy is he who overcame, buried in shame, risen in power. He is alive, and the stone is rolled away. All our worship will belong to him forever. Death is conquered, and our Savior holds the keys. There is a name that reigns above all others, Jesus Christ, the King above all kings. It won't be long, we will behold him, and every tear he'll wipe away. We'll be at home, the war will be over. Soon we will meet our Savior face to face. Every burden will be lifted in his presence. Every trophy will be laid down at his feet. There is a name that reigns above all others, Jesus Christ, the King above all kings. And all our worship will belong to you forever. Holy, holy, for all eternity. Yours is the name that reigns above all others, Jesus Christ, the King above all kings. Jesus Christ, King above all kings.
In search of the perfect visual aid to to illustrate the point that I want to make this morning. More about good, is it? Do you ever have difficulty in choosing the right path? Well, when I'm on this walk today, that all of us here in Yorkshire North and where are we?